Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope you're having a great week so far. So, today with music, we're going to continue on with our keyboard studies. But today, we're going to move out of the box we've kind of put ourselves in. So far, we've really only focused on about a five-note area of the piano from C through G on songs like Jingle Bells and Mary Had a Little Lamb. So, today, we're going to break outside that box and move our way all over the keyboard quite a bit more. So, we'll be using all of the letters on the keyboard from our musical alphabet by the end of today. The song we're going to be focusing in on today to do this is a Japanese song by the name of Sakura Sakura. A lot of people think this is an ancient song. It's really not ancient, but it's definitely been around for a while. It dates back to the Edo period of Japanese history between the 1600s and the mid 1800s. Sakura Sakura is a reference to the cherry blossom season in the early spring and the fleeting beauty that comes from the cherry blossoms as they only stay beautiful with their flowers for a short period of time. The mood of this song reflects that with a very mysterious, beautiful melody, but it has a bit of a somber, almost sad tone to it at the same time. If you're a big fan of Japanese culture or you find interesting, I think you're really going to enjoy today's song. So today we're going to be doing this by learning how to read the rest of the notes. We're going to learn about how to maneuver our way around the keyboard away from C and G, as well as learn how to shift our hands so that we're not just stuck on one spot on the keyboard. So give it a good shot today, guys. Today might be pretty challenging, but I really think you'll enjoy it when you get to the end. It's a beautiful sounding song, so do your best with it and make sure you answer the questions at the end. Let's get into it. All right, my friends, here we are. We're back over to our nice little workstation here. And we're going to move on today. We're going to add in some new material to our cheat sheet and learn a song that I'm quite certain you're going to enjoy the most of all the songs we've learned so far. So let's just take a little review of what have we learned so far. Now, hopefully if you were back with us before the holiday break, we took a look at Jingle Bells, which was the first song we learned. It was, I threw this one at you a little bit, kind of threw you into the deep end of the pool, make sure you could swim. Make sure you guys could read the letters and, of course, the actual written in music. And, of course, this is when I first talked to you guys about finger numbers so that we know which finger to use on the keyboard. Then, of course, I showed you guys Mary Had a Little Lamb last week, and I showed you this little easy kiddie version of it just to get us started here, where it just showed us the letters, showed us literally if it goes down lower or higher in pitch, and everything right here. This, of course, will reiterate everything we've talked about with the finger numbers in the right hand, but instead of using numbers, this is just letters, which of course is really not what we're trying to do here. We're really more interested in being able to read music, which is of course what we got down to last week. Now, this is really the meat and potatoes of learning music, my friends. The idea here, yes, this is a bit of a corny, easy song, but we have all of the pieces and the main elements we need to be able to go into much more interesting music. Right here, we have all of our written notation. We have our fingering numbers for the keyboard. We also wrote in the name for each pitch in case these are hard to read or slow you down. And we also talked about phrases. We color coded each musical phrase in the song. So that brings us to this week, my friends. We're going to learn today this song, a traditional Japanese folk song that has a very important place in Japanese history. And we're going to learn this one today. But by just taking a quick look at it, there may be a few things that jump off the page at you like, what does that mean? And what does that know? I've never seen that before. So we're going to get into all of this today and learn how to play Sakura Sakura. All right. So if we take a look at this first pitch here, you should probably, if you've been keeping up with us, notice immediately that we have not actually talked about what pitch this is, what letter this would be, or where on the keyboard it is. So we're going to hop over to our cheat sheet first things today, and we're going to add in the rest of the notes to our cheat sheet so that we can play Sakura Sakura later today. All right, so here we are. We're back to our trusty old cheat sheet. We've been adding to this for quite some time over the last few months. Now, I really hope that you've been keeping up with this. I hope you've made one of these. This right here is going to be like our Rosetta Stone, everything we're going to need. By the time we reach the end of our lessons together, we're going to have so much information on here, and if you've kept up with it, you're going to be able to do quite a bit with it. So just use this as a bit of notes catcher so you can refer back to. All right, so we are still talking about pitch here. We're on the keyboard. So far, we've learned 5 pitches, C, D, E, F, and G. I've also talked only about the treble clef, which we're going to move on from after this song, my friends. So this right here is, of course, the treble clef, otherwise known as the G clef, because The G line, the second of the 5 lines going up, goes right through the clef. That right there is why we call it the G clef, and that's also how we know that whatever has this line going through is a note G. But what we have not talked about is all of the lines above the G line as well as the spaces. So we're going to move on upward in our staff today. So let's take a look back to our musical alphabet, my friends. Remember what I mentioned to you when we first talked about pitch, that the musical alphabet only uses the first 7 letters of the alphabet that we use most often here. Now, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. The highest note we have on our staff right here so far is, of course, G, which begs the question, what's going to come after this? Well, if you remember, like I put this little arrow, this infinite arrow loop here, after G, we just go right back to the beginning of the alphabet here to A. We don't continue on to H. In music, we just use these first 7 letters. So the next pitch above G would have to be an A. So where is that A going to go? Well, it's not going to go on the next line, my friend. If you've noticed the pattern we've talked about, each letter from letter to letter always goes line, space, line. So whatever comes after G has to be a space, which is, of course, A. So if I were to put A onto our staff, it would end up right here in the second space up. Of course, the first line is E, first space is F. Second line is G, second space is A, because we're now recycling the alphabet. Now that if we just follow this pattern of line, space, line, or space, line, space, wherever one we start on, we can just go right on up through our alphabet until we run out of space here, or lines. So, of course, if A is the second space, the third line would be the next letter in our musical alphabet, which, of course, would mean the third line up, 1, 2, 3, would be B. So if I wanted to just go ahead and put all of our notes on here, so now we can add in the rest of our spaces and lines going up our staff. So if A is a space, the next line is B, which means the next space would be the next letter in our alphabet, C, which means the next line would be D, which of course means that the next space would be E. So I hope you're seeing the pattern here. And if you see the pattern, it makes it very easy to tell that the very top line of our treble clef staff is going to be the pitch F. So now we've covered everything, all the lines, E, G, B, D, and F. We've covered all the spaces, F, A, C, and E. So we can make a little note of that right off to the side to help us kind of get used to this quicker. So we have face in the space from going up, and we have E, G, B, D, F going up for the lines, or as I like to say, every good boy deserves fudge. But hey, maybe the ladies do too. But that doesn't match with our letters, so we'll just keep moving. But we are not just restricted by these 5 lines of the staff. We can actually go outside of the staff and keep going. So if I wanted to set a note right on top of the staff, right up here, notice that there's no line going through it. It's technically in a space above the staff. The same way D is in a space below the staff down here. Now, knowing the line space rule, that we'll know that this pitch right here has to be, hopefully you said it, a G, very simply. And we could keep going if we needed to. We would just add little lines like this one right here for our middle C, which we call this little line a ledger line. Now, if I wanted to keep going below C, I could keep going. So if we just write and pitch right here below this ledger line where C is on, that would mean that this would have to be the letter before C in the alphabet. If C is a line, the space before it would have to be, like I just said, B. So this right here shows us kind of the limitations that aren't really there in the staff. The staff is just 5 lines to help us. It could be many more lines, but then it gets more confusing. And if you're understanding this, awesome. This is something that takes people months or years even to get really comfortable with. But as long as you can understand that if you know one of the pitches, which I've stressed a lot about the G clef, and then you follow the line space rule, you can figure out any pitch on the staff by knowing at least one of them. Whether you go backwards in the alphabet or forwards, just think line, space, and you can figure anything out. Now, we're going to be using not all of these new pitches, but most of them in Sakura Sakura today when we learn that song. So I want to make sure that we're comfortable with this before we move on. All right, guys, we're running short here on the time for the first part, so I'll see you guys on for part 2 to continue on with the song.